Welcome to this training where we are going to be talking about safety officer training with regard to Occupational Health and Safety Act in South Africa. So most of our training are going to be based on occupational health and safety. And while we make most references to items or activities that are done in construction, our safety officer training does cover across the board in other industries or in other workplaces. So, Lusatech is going to take you through each step of occupational health and safety with regard to safety officers as well as the safety file, which is an integral part in the establishment of why somebody should be a safety officer, because the safety officer becomes the custodian of the safety file, which is then used in many sites as a document that actually becomes a tangible proof that occupational health and safety is taking place at that particular point. Let's dive deep into understanding occupational health and safety regulations in South Africa. Now, to ensure that workplaces have utmost safety in South Africa, the government of South Africa did establish what is now known as the Occupational Health and Safety Act 85 of 1993, which is a statutory act that actually works so hard in making sure that it protects workers. It protects people who are engaged in activities of working in industries that are of high risk, especially factories, mining, construction, and of course other workplaces. However, you would realize that occupational health and safety does impact a lot on people who are at high risk. And here we are referring to people who are working in construction sites, people who are working in mining sites, people who are working in high risk factories. Probably you are manufacturing metals or any other things that might be of that nature. Therefore, OHS Act comes in as something that is very vital in ensuring that workplaces are safe, reducing incidences, reducing accidents, reducing death, reducing people getting to be disabled and all like that. Because one thing that is very important, ladies and gentlemen, is that you cannot buy back your life. Impilo angeke ukhone ukuthi uyikolode ukuthi I need more, give me more, spare me more, or this and that. Once something happens onto you, it has happened. Therefore, we do have OHS that comes in to assist in that regard. Let's continue to dwell deeper and see how best does this occupational health and safety do assist us in ensuring that workplaces are actually safe in South Africa. There are different reasons why we should enact laws such as this one we're talking about, the occupational health and safety. Because if you would look in many years ago, there was no crucial importance of making sure that there is safety in workplaces, because most of the labor was that type of labor where people were being enslaved and stuff like that. However, with time, changes were made, and government started to realize that we need to sit down and come up with acts that can actually regulate how workplaces are handled. By so doing, then the Occupational Health and Safety Act was then enacted, which brought about a very crucial and important role in ensuring that workplaces are safe in South Africa, because it covers regulations that actually work on workplace hazards. it does talk about safety training, it does talk about employee rights, it also does talk about duties from both sides, be it you are an employer or you are an employee. What duties do you have yourself towards occupational health and safety? Now you would see that at Lusatec we do take cognizance of people like Charles Hayes. Charles Hayes is one of the people who uh, really delved much on health and safety. He even wrote here that safety first is safety always, and we abide with that in many aspects. That is why we dwell a lot in proper and good training. We are even able to come to your sites where you are working so that we can actually ensure that our training becomes aligned to the workplace that you are working at, so that when we train you in the right direction. Now, let's get into seeing this legislation. How exactly can it be viewed from layman's point of view? So, when OHS, the Occupational Health and Safety Act 85 of 93, if it's not well implemented at workplace, you will realize that there is a huge penalty that a company might end up facing, which means that now you get to be charged a huge fine, or certain individuals in that particular company or site might end up being arrested, especially if there is a result in death or injuries to persons, or even the entire site might end up being closed. And those who have worked in, for example, factories or construction site, they are very aware of how difficult it is to reopen a site when it has been closed, especially as a result of non-compliance. It basically means that it will take a lot of time for departments that are involved to be able to approve. And you might realize that other departments they might get involved. For example, Department of Environmental Affairs, Department of Health, over and above the Department of the Labor, which is already there and closing your site. So it is very imperative that as safety officers, we work tirelessly to make sure that we force management to comply with our requirements. At the same time, we enforce these requirements to our fellow employees so that we avoid or we avert a situation where we then find um, our sites being closed because it's not easy to reopen. The
So
Occupational
the,
Health
the,
and
the
Safety
regulations, the
Act,
regulations and requirements should be made
the,
clear
the, the, the Occupational Health and Safety
in such a way that
Act,
everyone understands.
the,
Be
the, the, the
be it
Occupational Health and
the
Safety
employees
Act,
who are working at the site, management who are
the, the,
involved
the,
at the
the
site,
Occupational Health and Safety
as
Act,
well as other people such as visitors who are going to be visiting at the
the,
site
the,
where
the,
you
the
are working.
Occupational Health and Safety
So
Act,
the entire regulations and the requirements that are put forth by
the
the Safety
Occupational
Act
Health and
should be
Safety
clear to everyone,
Act,
right? And the companies need to have a protocol that they
the
take
Occupational
cognizance of
Health and
so
Safety
that they can actually
Act,
be in a position where they say, you know what, we are going to implement this.
the
We are
Occupational Health
definitely
and
going to
Safety
implement this.
Act,
The problem becomes way out of line when companies
the Occupational
are
Health
not
and
really
Safety
putting enough effort
Act,
in trying to come up with protocols to implement it. This is something that
the
we'll just talk about
Occupational Health
at
and
this point.
Safety
Now,
Act,
when compliance is needed, and if we want total protocols to be
the
observed in terms
Occupational
of
Health and Safety
health and safety,
Act,
it basically means that there should be training to every staff member who is
the
involved,
Occupational Health and Safety
to every visitor
Act,
who is coming to the site,
to everybody, actually to every stakeholder that
the
happen to
Occupational
visit
Health
the
and
site or to
Safety
be at the site at any given point.
Act,
Such a visitor should be well trained or well inducted
the
enough so that we
Occupational
can have
Health
them
and Safety
compliant. Because to
Act,
give you an example, if I am gonna come to your site as an inspector
the Occupational
and
Health and
I'm not
Safety
aware of
Act,
the hazards that are there on the site, you can't allow me to just go around
the
inspecting the site
Occupational Health and
without me
Safety
being informed of the hazards
Act,
that I might face. Because I might not come back from that site. I might come
the
back injured,
Occupational Health
or I
and
might injure
Safety
other people. Therefore,
Act,
everybody should be inducted, everybody should be trained. So,
the
three things
Occupational
are
Health and
important.
Safety
We need to understand the
Act,
regulations and the requirements from the Act. We need, as companies, to
the
come up
Occupational
with
Health and
protocols of
Safety
implementing such,
Act,
as well as we need to have regular training and compliance so that we reach
the Occupational
these
Health and Safety
maximum zero
Act.
tolerance to incidences. I absolutely thank you so far for paying attention to what we've spoken about so far. Therefore, my gratitude goes to you all who are attending this lesson, whether you are attending it virtually or you are actually sitting in front of me as we speak and you are able to see me. Those who are also listening to this recording probably after some time because we're gonna put it there. We still appreciate your steadfast listening and we are grateful for that. Let's move on to the next slide where we need to zero into why are we so much concerned about the safety file towards training safety officers. It's only going to be easier if we all sit down and ask ourselves what is the role of a safety officer in the spectrum of occupational health and safety, right? It would be probably easier if we then try to grasp the significance of the safety file because the safety file it becomes the instrument upon which you can actually use to indicate that there is a safety officer here and compliance is there because it is the tangible proof. Therefore, the document is very crucial because it doesn't only serve as a comprehensive record of all safety related information of a project, but also guides us through the intricate details of what safety officer training or what safety officer does from day to day work. So we are going to first look into this safety file, and from our understanding of the safety file, then we will be able to start breaking down these items. Before before we continue, would like to remind each other that here at Lusatec, we emphasize the importance of technology. I think that's the reason why this lesson is being done across the board or across the platforms, be it online or be it face to face. We try to enhance our understanding and implementation of OHS practices through technology. And through IT and computer courses also, we do have that department. Individuals and companies are able to equip themselves with the latest technological tools, empowering them to manage occupational health and safety needs more effectively. Our company is level 1 BEE contributor, which basically means that we are totally black. When you partner with us as a service provider or as a learner, you must know that you are actually contributing more towards BEE, right? We are proudly South African, 100% South African, and we try by all means to make sure that we remain like that. We are accredited. We are full. Our our commitment, our commitment to quality assurance is actually reflected in our various accreditations and affiliation, highlighting our dedication to not only meeting but exceeding industry standards. So you will see that we are accredited with QCTO, we are accredited with CETAs. At the same time, we do have affiliation with different organizations. If you look at the computer side, we do have CompTIA, we do have Pearson, right? We do have many other organizations such as ICDL that we are affiliated with. The reason being, we would want to see or to be engaging with them with industry standards. We are currently working hand in hand with our developers to find ways of engaging with AWS, which is your Amazon Web Services, to encapsulate our courses there and to work for the better. On the side of occupational health and safety, we are affiliated with SIOSH, a very important organization when it comes to occupational health and safety. We are also in the process of getting affiliated with many other organizations in the spectrum so that at the end of the day, we are able to explore and lay a foundation for a deeper understanding of the essential skills and knowledge that is required for a safety officer in today's evolving workplace. Now, when you then look into the components or the component of a safety file, you are able then to unravel a new layer of knowledge, delving into various topics and modules critical for this training. From risk assessment to emergency responding planning, the safety file acts as a roadmap, ensuring that all aspects of occupational health and safety are covered comprehensively. So you then realize that understanding the safety file, especially in South African construction industry, because like I said at the beginning, that we are going to focus more on construction industry as an example. Not that we are saying this safety training is only for construction people. The safety of workers and the public as a general, it is of paramount importance. And you will see through the Occupational Health and Safety Act that it has indicated some construction regulations that are actually there to minimize risks, that are actually there to maximize avoidance of incidences in any construction site. And that being said, we are also saying in any other factory, in any other mining industry or situation or any other site that people are working, you will see that if you understand your safety file, then you are in a position where you can actually win. So, so why would we then say safety file is non-negotiable? We look at it as a legal backbone that if you do have a safety file, then you do have a crucial document that aligns everything, that sums up everything that is health and safety in one thing. It also tells the public or every stakeholder that this particular site or this particular company understands and knows how it's important for it to keep national standards in as far as safety. The essence of the safety file is that of serving as a comprehensive record. The safety file contains all documentation related to the health and safety practices on any construction site, right? From risks assessment and control measures, the Occupational Health and Safety Act, together with the regulations, are also found in in that file. That file then is used at every moment in the project life cycle, from the time when you are planning the project up to the time when you are actually handing over the project to the client. The safety file needs to indicate or needs to survive each and every stage in that project life cycle. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have managed to actually indicate or to explain more on the importance of the safety file. And it will be important now for us to dwell on what are the contents of a safety file so that we wind up this lesson. And for the next lesson, we are then able to start to look into each and every part that would have indicated on the safety file. Establishing a good safety file will bring a lot of value to the construction site or to the site where you are working. One of the values that we underestimate is that of protection. By documenting and adhering to safety measures, the safety file plays a crucial role in preventing accidents and protecting lives, and that is the most important thing, right? Secondly, it does create compliance evidence, which basically means that if the Department of Labor is coming or any other authority of that matter, it, since we established that there are many other stakeholders who might come to visit the site, once they arrive there, if they find a well-maintained safety file, then you do have a proof, a proper proof that is tangible to say, look, we are legal, number one, and number two, we do adhere to safety standards, right? And it is a legal safeguard. In any unfortunate situations, somebody dies, somebody gets injured, somebody gets amputated, and all like that, we are able to go to a document that can work either as a defense tool or can work as a reference when there is prosecution or legal challenges. So, as safety officers, we need to treat um, the safety file as like the Bible of your site, if I would borrow that understanding from religious spectrum. Eh, it has to be the Bible of your site because every now and then you need to go and refer to it. So the safety officer is the custodian of the safety file. Once a contractor has found or has been appointed to run a contract or to do a job at a particular site, it is important that certain appointments should be made. One of the appointment, of course, is that of us, the safety officers, so that we can have our role to ensure that the file is initiated, to ensure that the safety file is regularly updated and accurately reflected or accurately reflects the current safety status of the project. So that's where we come in as safety officers, ladies and gentlemen. Looking into the contents of a safety file, the contents of safety file will differ from one site to another because there are sites that are bigger. For instance, if we are talking about an education institution, a small education institution might have a file that maybe contains about 18 to 20 pages, whereas a huge construction or a mining site might have a safety file that actually goes to 500 pages. You might have book one of three, book two of three, book three of three, just to indicate that the files are many in terms of volume that is entered into that. So it all depends on which type of or what is the size of the work that you are doing there. Now, the first part of your safety file needs to indicate the policy, right? After you have indicated the preface or preamble of or introduction to that thing, to the file. The next thing that you need to dwell on is to indicate the policy. What is the policy stand of your company in terms of safety, right? And then you can then move on to statutory requirements where you indicate now what is the law saying, which is the Occupational Health and Safety Act. What does it require you? It requires you to do appointments. Which ones are key appointments? you need to appoint the chief executive officer, who is the owner of the company, who also need to appoint the assistants, who usually becomes the site manager, right? Then the site manager need to appoint supervisors and foremen who are going to be running day-to-day um, tactical and operational things of the company or of the site. And immediately you need to be appointed as a safety officer yourself. Then from there, you as a safety officer, you are then able to start appointing different people, especially supervisors, pertaining to your site, depending on what your site is all about. If your site uses a lot of machinery, then you need a machine supervisor, right? You need a maintenance supervisor for that machinery. If you're using plant, you need a plant supervisor, a maintenance supervisor for that plant and stuff like that. If you're using maybe scaffolds, you need an erector supervisor, an erector inspector, and so on and so on. All those are to be done. Then, following also other appointments that are also required by different sections of regulations in terms of Occupational Health and Safety Act, you will see that you need to appoint she reps according to the number of people who are employed in your company. You need to appoint first aiders. You need to appoint a basic firefighter, which is a fire marshal. You need to appoint a risk assessor or a assessor, yes. You also need to probably appoint an incident investigator. All those appointments need to be clearly indicated in your safety file. Then from there, we then move on to the next step. The next step becomes where you then be able to indicate in your file what is your safety plan. Now, safety plan covers the first part of the safety plan is the general uh, idea of what exactly are you going to be doing in the safety plan. The general part is where you indicate what is a general housekeeping of your site. The general housekeeping of your site here, we are really talking about where do you put your tools? Where do you store your machinery? Where do you store your fuel, such as petrol or diesel? Where do you put your scaffolds? And etc. etc. Basically, you are referring to housekeeping of your site. Secondly, under general, you can also talk about traffic accommodation. How do you accommodate traffic? Because now you do have different types of traffic in their categories. You do have human traffic, people who are going to be walking as pedestrians. These are your workers, people who are going to get through the gate to go and work. You have got your management, including you, who are going to be walking around. You also have visitors, we do have inspectors, we do have suppliers who are going to be coming in. That's people who are walking on the foot. It's the human traffic. They also need to be accommodated. How do you put them or how do they fit in your site? On the other side, you also look into the mobile traffic. Here we are now talking about vehicles. Vehicles, they are also in different categories. We do have plant and equipment or constructed vehicles. We do have bakkies that are used in the construction vehicles to carry etc. You see them. They have got flags, they have got reflectors, they have got beacons shining on top of them. How do you accommodate those? We also have vehicles of visitors. Should they enter the site or you have got a car park outside the site, right? How are they going to be entering these vehicles? It's also an important part. So, in a nutshell, you need to have that way of categorizing or of taking care of the traffic in their different categories, right? You would then move on from general to probably to another point where now these points they depend on the site that you are running. If you are running a site that is more on machinery, you might want to have a point where you talk about repairs and maintenance of that machinery or of that plant, right? You would also want to talk about the base preparation. What do you do when you are preparing to go to work with this machinery or with this plant, right? You might also want to talk about what exactly happens during the work. For instance, if you've got an excavator, we are talking about firstly, how do you repair and maintain excavator, right? So you need to discuss or to have issues that may pertains to that under your file. Then the best preparation refers to what are the procedures that need to be done by workers who are going to be using the excavator before they even enter or go into the excavator to go and use it. And then when they've driven the excavator to the site where they are excavating or where they are digging trenches and stuff, what is the standard operating procedures that they face there, right? So all those things need to be part of your safety plan. When you have completed each and every stage, um, you then make sure that you have included items such as risk assessment and control measures into these various tasks that we're talking about, and you have documented this safe work procedures for each and every what stage of work we've talking about. Remember, we've talked about from repairs up to the time when you finish the work. Emergency response plans, they need to be included as well. Health and safety training records for workers, records of inspections, audits, and corrective actions that have been taken, right? And then also reports of any incidents or accidents that could have happened and the subsequent response to them. They also need to be included in the safety file there. So you will see that safety files they differ, like I've said, from one company to another. But basically, in a nutshell, you are just trying to combine every aspect of occupational health and safety in one legal document. And hence, when we are training safety officers, we should be able to continuously make reference to a safety file because that is the document that you should be able to produce when anyone comes to your office or comes to your workplace as a safety officer. As key takeaway issues or key important aspects that we have learned so far is that the safety file, it is a cornerstone of a proactive safety culture in South Africa. By diligently maintaining this document, contractors not only comply with the law but also contribute to a safer, more responsible construction sector or any other sector of that matter. So, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to this type of work where you are going to be working as safety officers. This training or this session was mainly focusing on trying to introduce you to topics that you are going to be facing as a safety officer with regard to or with alignment to a safety file. And at the same time, one has also learned how to construct a safety file. For more information, you might want to need to join us in different platforms where we are found. Lusatech Training Academy is actually found on Instagram. We are there as Lusatech Skills. We are on Facebook as Lusatech Training, so you can easily find us there. We are also on Twitter as Institute of Zululand or I Zululand there. We are also there on TikTok, where most of our videos are posted um, as Lusatech Skills. We are also found on YouTube, where most of our longer videos or our longer lectures are going to be stored. So follow us in these platforms, different platforms, and find ways of grasping the knowledge that we are sharing with you safety officers. Till we meet on our next lesson, let's keep on studying and enjoy the part of our lives.